this video, we're going to be taking a look at my personal top 5 favorite vintage collection action figures for 2023. If you haven't already, the Black Series one should already be up on the channel. If you're curious about that, decided this year to separate all the videos. And I have to admit, for this TVC one, I've had a very hard time trying to make this list. I was looking at all the releases for this year, and all of them sounded really good to me. I'll do a couple honorable mentions to the honorable mentions. The Artillery Stormtrooper, that's a fantastic action figure. A New Hope Stormtrooper, for example, great sculpts that were released this year as well. The reason why I don't include them on this list, I'll say that now, is because quality control in many instances, and plus some of the joints on them are kind of ratchety, I suppose. So yes, they're very nice action figures, and they're probably the definitive Stormtrooper sculpt, for example, but I just didn't include them on this list because, as far as quality is concerned, they're not top tier compared to the 5 I ultimately picked. And other ones as well, like Wolf and Nikto and Kithba, and what's the other one, Yakface as well. I didn't include those ones because technically those are just re-releases, and they were re-released in earlier years like 2011, 12, 18 even for Yakface. I have seen some lists where people suggest that, oh, these are 2023 releases, and yes, those are correct for that particular release of the figure, especially if it has photoreal tech for the face. But I like to go off of the original. So for the purposes of this video, it has to be basically all new original action figures or original characters. Of course, if they're reutilizing tooling in some way, that's perfectly fine. But as long as they haven't been previously released before, that's the main clause behind it. So we'll start off with these two. These are my honorable mentions. I did that for the Black Series as well. Picked 2 honorable mentions, and I picked Black Chris Stanton and Paz Vizsla. A lot of people have been choosing Paz Vizsla as their top TVC action figure for the year, and I think you have a strong case for that. And I think it's a fantastic action figure as well, and it definitely deserves its place as one of the top ones for the year. It's kind of more personal bias on my part why I didn't include him in my top 5, because I'm just not the biggest fan of the character, or I can't say I'm the biggest Mandalorian fan in general. He looks cool, and I proudly display him with my rest of the Mandalorians I have. But I just can't say he's one of my favorite characters out there, and he didn't really wow me away where it's like, oh, this is easily the best action figure of the year. When I choose top characters in my collection, usually I have to have some type of connection to the character, or they're a character that's important to me in some ways, or that I can identify with, or one of those things, and Paz Vizsla is just not one of those. But from an action figure standpoint, he's definitely top tier, and he deserves his place as an honorable mention. Black Chris Stanton here, mostly I'm including him as an honorable mention instead of in the top 5 because of the price. It's way overpriced for what you get, but I think this is the best Wookiee that Hasbro's ever made to date. I actually look at this and think, wow, that is a really good Wookiee. And I've never had that reaction before with any of the Chewbacca's or Muro or any of the other Wookiee action figures that Hasbro's made over the years. Just the sculpts of them sometimes are not very good, or it almost looks like a chewed up candy bar or something like that. I've heard that reference for the Black Series Zalbar every now and then. But this Wookiee, I look at him and think, yeah, this is a Wookiee you don't want to mess with. I know Chris Stanton has a little bit of a different build compared to a lot of Wookiees. Chewbacca, for example, is kind of on the thinner side, and I think he's taller as well. But to me, I look at this, and this is exactly what a Wookiee sculpt should look like, and Hasbro did a fantastic job with it. It's just a little too pricey for what it is, quite frankly. And it's not perfect. Some of the joints on it are a little bit frozen, and you can't display him exactly how you want. And to this day, I still have a hard time trying to get those hands off so I can put his alternative hands on. So it's not 100% perfect, but he's pretty darn close. And I'm really glad to have him in the collection. And he definitely deserves an honorable mention. Best Wookiee that Hasbro's made to date, quite frankly. So now we'll go ahead and get into the top 5 here. Uh, Other than maybe figure number 1 and 2, I have a really hard time trying to think of exactly what order to put the other 3 in. I think we'll go with this one here. So for figure number 5, it's going to be Captain Piet or Admiral Piet. His rank badge, I think, signifies more of a captain instead of an admiral. So Piet is a character that we've really wanted in our collections as a community for a long time now. Personally, I have not owned a Piet before this year, and I didn't really want to go ahead and get the Power of the Force one because it just doesn't look like Piet at all to me, and the sculpt is not the best one in the world. But I'm very happy that we finally got Piet in action figure form again, and on an all new sculpt at that, and it's a perfect sculpt, quite frankly. I know I've mentioned this in like my general Veers video and a few others. Imperial officers don't necessarily need to be super articulated, but the articulation he has on here is very well hidden. Oftentimes, when you have a super articulated action figure, you can see all the joints, especially in the legs or like that swivel cut thigh and all that. But this action figure does a really good job hiding all that stuff. So it's a great sculpt all around. I think this new Imperial Officers mold is going to stay around for quite a long time, and I hope it gets its fullest utilization over the years. I would love to see. Oh, there's so many characters out there, of course, like Wolf Yularen, General Ron Mark. I think that'd be an interesting one as well. Who else is there? I would like to see a female Imperial Officer sculpt made eventually and get a definitive Yasan Azard at some point as well, and like Natasi Dala and characters like that. But this was definitely a highlight of 2023 for me. Nice to finally get Piet. Nice sculpt all around, and I proudly display this character on my shelf. What more can I say about this than I haven't already? I think the likeness to the actor who plays as him is pretty good, just about spot on. Has little sunken eyes in a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about it. I'm just very happy to have Piet in the collection, and he definitely is a highlight of the year for me. So figure number 4 here. This is one I kind of forgot about, to be honest, until I was looking at the list of the figures for the year, and I thought he was more of a 22 release. It turns out he actually is a 23 release, and I think this is the definitive version of this character to date, at least for 3 3/4 inch. And that is the Imperial Light Cruiser Luke Skywalker. This is another one I've seen people include in their best action figure of the year, and I think you have a strong case for that one as well. I look at this action figure and I think this is Grandmaster Luke, or the Luke that we should have got as the head of the new Jedi Academy. Expanding the universe Luke, basically. He's become the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, the Wise Master. I look at this, and that's what I see in this action figure. The sculpt, he reutilizes a lot of older parts from Luke's, but I think it's parts that still hold up really well today. And he does have a nice bit of newness to him. I think the photoreal turned out alright. It's not 100%, but I think it's pretty good. At least for my Luke, it seems like he's kind of has some gray in his hair a little bit too, so definitely a little bit of an older Luke. It's just nice to finally get one in the collection. And even though this is based upon his appearance in The Mandalorian, like I said, I treat this as like the Grandmaster Luke from the expanding universe. I like that he still has the black robes, and I like that we finally got a nicely sculpted black robe for him to wear. Some of the other ones we've gotten in the past are way too oversized, or the hood's way too big, and it just never looked right on him. But this one's perfect, and I think we can say that we have the best Luke Skywalker in his prime in a TVC scale now, or a 3 3/4 inch scale, I should say. And I think this is one of the highlights of the year for me. I was lately I've been looking at them displayed on the shelf and think, wow, that's a very nice action figure. At this point, I have quite a few Luke Skywalkers, and this one's definitely one of the best ones out of all of them. I really like the comic pack one as well with Lumia. I think that's a great Grandmaster Luke as well. But this one's definitely up there with that one, I think. But that's all I can say about it. It's a perfect Luke Skywalker, in my opinion, and I think he's one of the best of the year. And I think there's a strong case for a lot of people that say that this is the best action figure for the year. Figure number 3 here. I think between the top 3 here, it's pretty clear cut as to what it's going to be for me. And figure number 3, I'm going to include Hunter. So Hunter, I think a lot of people, while they really like this action figure, at the same time they're kind of disappointed by it. And the disappointment has to be with, we don't have the rest of the Bad Batch squad as of yet. And there's really no sign of when we're going to get those. I've been watching some of the Q&As that Hasbro's been doing lately with some of the other people on YouTube, and it seems to be the general consensus is there's really no plans in motion as to when to get the rest of the Bad Batch out. I do recall seeing several months ago there was a rumor out there that Crosshair was going to be revealed, I think at San Diego Comic-Con or somewhere in that one of those conventions. And of course it never happened, and to this day we have no indication on any of the other Bad Batch. So if we ever get any of the other ones, it's probably not even going to be into next year. It might be 2025 even, and maybe even later than that, because we'll probably get, what, one a year? So if the Bad Batch ever gets completed, it might happen before the end of the decade, if we're lucky. So I think that's where a lot of the disappointment with this action figure comes from, is why bother making Hunter if you can't bother to make the rest of the crew? And I totally understand that, but from a purely action figure standpoint by itself, I think he's one of the best engineered figures that we've ever gotten from Hasbro. It's perfect in every way, and even though he can't fit a stand at all on his feet, he has a large enough footprint where I haven't had any problem standing him at all. And the joints on him are extremely fluid. Probably one of the most fluid action figures I've ever felt. None of the joints are ratchety in any way, and even if you could get him in a crouching position, if you work with it, he really has no problem getting in that crouching position. No matter which way you work it, quite frankly. Trying to see if I can get him in one now. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of practice, but I know I've gotten in him in a crouching position before, but it's just a nice action figure all around, and it looks like something straight out of the show. I can't say I'm the biggest Bad Batch fan in the world, but from what I have seen of it so far, I've mostly liked a lot of the concepts, and I know a lot of the episodes are pretty boring for the most part, and a big waste of time. It's one of those shows that it had so much potential, that unfortunately a lot of it's been wasted. But when they do have a episode that usually has a lot of positive reception, they usually knock it out of the park. Hunter himself, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of his Season 2 appearance, but at least for the Season 1 look, it looks really good. And I think this is going to be reutilized at some point for the Republic Commandos, quite frankly. At least the body, that is. And I'm surprised Hasbro hasn't attempted to do that up until now. They could easily do a troop builder pack and just 4 commandos, plain white ones. Hopefully they get around to doing that at some point. I would really like to get a pack of commandos like that. And all they have to really do is just a new head, a repaint, and then some minor retools, like get rid of his sheath here for his knife. And that's pretty much it. The backpack's the same, the armor's all the same, the blaster's even the same. So yeah, basically just a new helmet and then a repaint, and then a slight retool here, and that's about it. But yeah, everything about it's perfect. It looks exactly like the character on screen. The tooling, I think, is excellent on it. The engineering is great. The joints are fluid. Nothing feels ratchety. I have just been very impressed with this action figure for the whole year, and he's number 3 for me. So for figure number 2, this one actually kind of surprised me a little bit. When I got him initially, or even leading into getting him, I didn't think that he was going to be one of the best action figures of the year. I thought, oh, he's just going to be a simple retool, and then yeah, it's just going to be a retool, and that's it. There's really nothing too special about it. In fact, when I saw some of the promo images of it, it was kind of like, yeah, I think Hasbro could have done a much better job with it. But after getting him in hand and seeing what he's all about, turns out he's one of the most impressive figures of the year for me. And despite him reutilizing a lot of old parts, it feels like an all-new action figure to me. And that character is Pre Vizsla here. So I don't have the Black Series action figure yet to compare him to. I don't know if I'm going to get that one, but maybe at some point. But for this TVC figure, I think he's really good. I'm really impressed with it all around. The helmet, the head sculpt, the jetpack, the Darksaber, everything about it. The holsters actually fit his weapons really good. The helmet stays into place good, and you can barely even tell he has a removable helmet. It's just a solid action figure all around. There's really not a lot more I can say about it. All these action figures have been reviewed on the channel, so anything I had to say about it is mostly in those videos. But this is, I'll have to say, this is probably the most surprising action figure of the year for me. It's one that I didn't have a lot of expectations for, but then he more than exceeded the expectations for me. And I proudly display him with the rest of my Mandalorians. At some point I do plan on doing a Mandalorian collection video, so we'll be seeing him again at some point. So for figure number 1 here, so I had to think really hard about this one, and I know this kind of breaks my rules a little bit as to reutilizing or re-releases of action figures from the past. But this one's just so good that I kind of had to break the rule for him. Just this one time for this one action figure. And it's one that we really needed a re-release of. And I think he's been met with a lot of positive fan reception. And I think a lot of people have been saying that this is potentially the best action figure Hasbro's made in TVC, at least in a long time. And he definitely needed a repack because there's so much high demand for him that it really couldn't keep up with it. But thankfully they did, and they did a minor correction for him as well. So we'll just go ahead and bring him out right now. So that's Captain Hauser here. Easily the best action figure of the year in my opinion. I mean, it's the best Clone Trooper sculpt overall. The paint looks really good on it. And one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen for a Clone Trooper figure. I mean, look at that fade he's got going on with that high and tight. It's really good. I'm really impressed with it. The pauldron is unique compared to what we've gotten in the past. Most pauldrons are over the left shoulder, but in this case it's over the right. But it's just a solid action figure all around. Anyone who says otherwise, I don't know what you're talking about. It's just so good. Actually, I'm just fooling with all of you. It is a nice action figure, but he's not number 1. I just want to see how many people I can make mad before they either tune out the video or leave a nasty comment or something like that. But you gotta know what's the best action figure of the year for me, especially if you've been following the channel for a long time. You gotta know which character this is. It's clearly Darth Revan. He's been a long time coming. We've been waiting on this guy for like, what, 5 years now at this point, since Hasbro initially revealed him, and they knocked it out of the park. Easily the best action figure of 2023 to me. Of course, it helps that he's one of my personal favorite characters in all Star Wars, from one of my favorite video games of all time. But, I mean, it's just a really nice Revan. It looks pretty accurate to what he was in the game, and it's a nice upgrade compared to the 30th anniversary figure. I still really like that action figure a lot, and I proudly display both of that one and this new Revan side by side. They both have their likes and dislikes, but overall, this is a fantastic action figure. I always have them displayed with the one lightsaber because I really can't get into Revan having the two. I know in the Old Republic or the Galaxy of Heroes game, it seems like it's been decreed that Revan's has 2 lightsabers. But if you're an original player of the first Knights of the Republic game, you probably recognize Revan more with just the one red lightsaber, so that's usually how I have him displayed. But the tooling's excellent. As far as I know, I think he's all new tooling all around. I don't think he really reutilizes any parts, as far as I could tell. And everything about it's perfect. The paint apps are nice. He has a complete helmet, not just like a Sith mask that is on the 30th anniversary figure. It's very vibrant. The reds are very deep on him, and everything stands out really nice. The silver does. It's just a nice action figure all around. Like Mandalore the Ultimate said, Revan is Mandalorian in all but blood, basically. So definitely the top action figure of 2023, in my opinion. So that's my top 5 list for the year. So let me know what your top 5 list is. I'm really curious what it is. And do you agree with this list? Would you put any of these 5 in your list? I'm sure lots of people would. Some people might even say that this is their list and maybe switch it up a little bit. So overall for 2023 for Vintage Collection, I think it's been a pretty solid year. I haven't collected everything that came out for the year. Of course, we had the HasLab Ghost. We had the Boba Fett's Throne Room, which I do have reviewed on the channel. If you want to check that out, it's an excellent set. It's one of the best play sets I think Hasbro's ever made for Star Wars, and I'm very happy to have it. I didn't back the Ghost, and I don't regret backing the Ghost because it's just not a ship that I really want as like a centerpiece in my collection. I think if I do have to pick one ship I would want as a centerpiece, I would pick the Imperial Shuttle or the Ebon Hawk. It'd be one of those two. As far as getting a HasLab Ebon Hawk, it's been thrown around every now and then. I've talked about it every now and then. I would definitely be a big campaigner into that if it was even on the table. So hopefully someday Hasbro can do that. I don't know though. I would say there's about a 1% chance of that happening. But you never know. Maybe 10 years from now I'll be looking back at this video and then we'll be like, oh my goodness, we actually finally got it. But Imperial Shuttle as well, as much as I would like for there to be a new HasLab, at the same time, I'm not counting on that one either, so I might go back and get the Saga Collection one or the Saga 2002 Imperial Shuttle. I do recall seeing those in stores at the time, and unfortunately I just wasn't able to get them back in the early and mid 2000s. So what else is there for TVC? Overall, I think we got a pretty good amount of new sculpts. There's a lot of surprises throughout the year. Of course, we saw some surprises in the price point. We saw our very first $40 3 3/4 inch figure right here, and it seems like the new standard, at least for this year, I think has been $16.99 for figures, which is outrageous, but you know, it is what it is. The only way things will change is if it hits rock bottom, quite frankly, and as far as I can tell, prices will probably just keep going up until everyone's priced out or everyone quits the hobby or something happens with Hasbro or something. Everything has to hit rock bottom before we'll see any change. Hasbro's just not going to change on whim because collectors aren't happy about the new prices. But we'll see. I think someday we'll see a reduction in price if the line isn't ended by then. Of course, I could talk a lot more about TVC and what's done over the years. I might save that for a different video though. But so yeah, this is my top 5 and my 2 honorable mentions for the year. And I'll just bring out Hauser here. I don't like to make fun of him, but it's fun to fool people every now and then. Well, he technically is a 2023 action figure because he got the name pill corrected from Captain Ballas to Hauser. Yeah, it's a nice action figure as well. I reviewed him on the channel like a year and a half ago with the 4-pack. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with this list? Do you not agree with the list? Do you have other action figures in mind? Is there something I'm missing that you think was better? I'm very curious to know what you think. But anyways, that concludes this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more videos. There will always be lots more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way you know when more get posted. and check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. And as always, thanks for watching.